Hi, I wanted to talk briefly about the functions and structures of proteins. So here you see on the left side of the screen a chain of amino acids that is a protein that has a rod-like shape. Now any protein that you see with a rod-like shape is probably going to be a structural protein. Now is one structural actually, and there's one other type of function that occurs with a rod-like shape, and that is contractile. So there's actually two different types of protein functions that can occur with a rod-like shape protein structure. Okay, so the structural proteins that have a rod-like shape are going to be things like collagen, and these are proteins that provide structure and strength to tissues and cells. Now, the rod-like contractile proteins are actin and myosin. And I'm not going to get too much into the function of these proteins now, but these are the only types of rod-like structure proteins that we have in our body. Now, the other type of protein here is a globular shaped protein. So globular. And these are proteins that have long chains of amino acids that are bent and folded into sort of a spherical globular structure. Now, globular proteins, there is one type of globular protein that is structural, and that is colloidal proteins. Now, colloidal protein is a protein like albumin that provides the structure of the plasma. And it provides the structure of the plasma by holding fluid within the intravascular space through colloidal pressure or osmotic pressure. Okay. Now, other types of proteins, again, the rest of the types of proteins that I'm going to talk about here are globular proteins. Now, so we have structural proteins and contractile proteins. Now, the next type of protein that I'd like to talk about is messenger proteins. Now, messenger proteins are globular proteins that move through the bloodstream or through the intracellular space, so the spaces around the cells. So it might move from cell to cell, carrying a message. So these messenger proteins are things like hormones, chemokines, and receptors. So the thing that carries the message and the proteins that receive the message. So you got a carrier protein here going from one cell going to another. So that would be a chemokine or a paracrine type of messenger protein. Now again, these tend to be globular shaped, and they dissolve in the plasma or the intracellular fluid and carry a message from one cell to the next. Now, the next type I would like to talk about are transport proteins. So there are many molecules that do not dissolve well in blood, and there's other molecules that need to remain in an inactive state. So these, for instance, any fat-soluble molecules like sterols, steroid hormones, and other substances like that need to be carried by a protein molecule in order to dissolve in the blood and be carried around in the plasma. Okay, so there are transport proteins that serve functions like that. Also, there are some electrolytes that bound and are stored within the blood on a transport molecule. So you may have a different transport protein that binds with and carries an electrolyte. For instance, calcium is an example like this. Calcium is carried by albumin, which is in this case serving as a transport protein. Now another type of protein that we have, another classification of proteins that we have are membrane proteins. Now membrane proteins are proteins, they can be channels, they can be carriers, or they can be pumps. Okay, now I'm going to go down to the another screen and I'll draw you a picture of that. Okay, so now remember, the phospholipid bilayer cell membrane is permeable to small molecules and charged and uncharged molecules. Okay, so this is the phospholipid bilayer membrane. So it will not let highly charged or polar molecules pass through. So in order for those cells to pass through, we have to have some kind of protein channel or pump or carrier. Okay, so a protein channel may just be a amino acid chain that is folded in such a way that it makes a hollow tube. And that hollow tube will allow things like our polar H2O molecule to pass through.